A lot has happened since the 16-inch MacBook Pro debuted. First, we had the intro of the new 13-inch MacBook Pros a few months ago, and then the announcement of macOS Big Sur, which was shortly followed by the biggest announcement of all, that Apple is switching their Mac processors from Intel to Apple's own proprietary silicon. As I'm sure you've heard by now, this means Apple's releases will no longer need to rely on other companies to finish their processors to provide for them, and instead, they can work on their own schedule and release Macs whenever their own teams finish the processors. Also, using Apple processors built for the Mac, they will be optimized for every device, allowing for optimal battery life, thermal capabilities, and power to run your machine. But you probably already know all of this. It's pretty mainstream that Apple's ARM Macs, as people are calling them, are going to be great. But in the meantime, there aren't any of these ARM Macs even for sale, and the transition will take about 2 years for all of Apple's Macs to switch over. So the next 2 years are going to be a bit of a tricky spot for Apple computer users. Do you wait for your favorite Apple device to switch over to the new processor at some point in the next 2 years, or do you just buy the one that they're selling now that run off of Intel's processors? It's not like Intel's processors are bad by any means, so should you wait or buy now? Well, this question is really going to depend on what you're looking for, so today we're going to focus on one of these products, the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Is it still worth buying this machine in mid-2020? Well, let's go over the specs of this guy in case you forgot. It starts at an Intel Core i7 processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM, a 512 gigabyte SSD, and 100-watt battery, and it will run you $23.99. So yeah, this computer is in no way the way to go if you're looking for a budget option, but you have to take these specs with a grain of salt, now that we have all of this new information about Apple's future with the ARM Macs. Like, for example, that battery life. It's 100 watts, which is the most you can legally bring on an airplane, and probably the biggest battery we will ever see in an Apple product, at least for the foreseeable future until they change some sort of regulation. So at first glance, you may think that if battery life is a priority for you, then this machine is perfect. It can't get any better. But what you may be overlooking is that Apple's ARM chip is going to optimize that battery in a way that will hopefully add hours to its daily life. So sure, 100 watts may be the limit for how big the battery can actually be, but that 100 watts really is just a measure of the battery itself, not how long the battery lasts. So with optimization, we can still see a 100-watt battery of the same size reach much, much further and last longer than even we have now. But that's not to discount the 16-inch MacBook Pro as it is. Don't get me wrong, the battery on this thing is great, even without the ARM chip. I can easily get through a day with this without having to charge, which is really what matters. And I'm doing some pretty complicated productivity work. Also, that price. It may sound staggering, but you have to remember the topic of this video to begin with, the fact that Apple is switching to ARM processors. So even though this is Apple's best laptop in years and an incredibly capable machine, it makes it much harder to recommend when we know what is just around the corner. The same thing goes for the iPhone 11 Pro, for example. I just did an entire video on the awesome iPhone 12 Pro that is rumored to come soon, and just because of all we think we know about it, as great as the 11 Pro is, it makes it very hard to recommend when we know the awesome things that are coming. The same thing goes for the 16-inch MacBook Pro, because not only do we have leaked specs and rumors to go off of, we have a confirmed Apple announcement that huge changes are coming. So we know for a fact that we have a real treat coming our way soon. So back to that price. We all know of the awesome things coming around the corner, and Apple knows this. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some serious price drops on all of Apple's Macs, but especially this one. You can already get this Mac refurbished for around $2,000, and I wouldn't be surprised if pretty soon we can see this laptop selling for $1,800 or $1,900 refurbished with this inevitable price drop, which, despite all of the other stuff, really is a fantastic deal. But this still begs the question, is it worth saving all that money for this machine just for it to be obsolete in a few months? Or as Austin would say much more simply, is it worth it? Well, this is a 16-inch MacBook Pro video. Okay, I'm done with the Austin impression. The point is, it really depends on you. I struggle to recommend this machine, obviously, when I know what is right around the corner, but I would say there are 3 good options for 3 types of people. There's the guy who wants to just have a really solid laptop for productivity work, who maybe has one now that works, but they're looking to upgrade. For that guy, I would say wait. definitely wait. You've already probably been using your computer for years anyways, so why not just wait a little longer? You seriously won't regret it. And when that Apple ARM Mac comes out with great specs, better battery life, and maybe even a whole new redesign to go along with it, you will be the coolest Mac user in the neighborhood. But what if you are on a really tight budget and just want to get the best bang for your buck? For that person, I would say still wait. Because, as I said, over time, as we get closer and closer to the release of the Apple ARM Mac, the price of these Intel Macs, especially refurbished, are going to go way down. So I don't necessarily mean wait to buy the ARM Mac, I mean wait until the ARM Mac comes out so that you can buy this guy at a way reduced price. If you actually wait the year or so it might take for those ARM Macs to come out, you might be able to find a brand new and very capable 16-inch MacBook Pro on Amazon or something like that for $1,500, which sounds like a crazy, ridiculous, hypothetical deal right now. But if you look at the 15-inch MacBook Pros that came out just over a year ago, they're already selling for upwards of $1,000 less than they did when they came out. But when the ARM Mac comes out, and there'll be a way more attractive option out, and this thing is discontinued, all Apple's going to want to do is sell this old model out of stock. So that MSRP is going to go way down. But finally, there's that third person. This person has probably been using a laptop for a while, but it's just really not working. Like, you're looking at upgrading now, like right now. Otherwise, you may not be able to continue doing anything. Like, maybe your laptop broke, or you just really can't use it. And so, if you're that person and you really need it, going for the 16-inch MacBook Pro now isn't the worst option. Sure, it'll get less expensive every couple months over the next 2 years until Apple inevitably discontinues it, so it may not be the smartest economical decision, but if you buy this thing now, you honestly won't be disappointed. That third person, by the way, is me. Granted, I did buy this thing before the announcement of the switch away from Intel-based Macs, but as someone who's pretty well-versed in the tech world, I knew that it was coming. But I also knew that it was pretty unlikely that we would actually see an Apple Silicon Mac at WWDC, which we didn't, and I needed one now. I didn't have time to wait the 2 years that it would take for one of those to actually come out. And so if you're like that, and you really need something now, which I did, then this computer won't let you down. If you're curious, I was using a 2015 base model 13-inch MacBook Pro to edit all of my videos with a mere 128GB SSD. So trying to edit any sort of long-length video content on there would fill my hard drive faster than you can ring my like button and subscribe to my bell, because guys, that is pretty much it for this video. Don't forget to do what I just said, and I will see you next time. I gotta go. Docs. SL60W is a video light that I just ordered. It's coming next week. I'm hella hyped. So I will see you guys next time with a brand new, hopefully permanent setup. See you next week.